The spaceport on planet Zareth 5 was always full of life. Ships landed and took off every few minutes. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked in every direction. Some carried bags, others looked at maps, and many just hurried to their next destination. Among the crowd, a small alien girl stood alone. Her skin was green, her eyes large and glassy with tears. She wore a silver-blue cloak that was too big for her. Beside her, lying still on the cold floor, was an adult Kalari woman, clearly her mother. The girl looked around frightened and cried in broken galactic common, "My mom won't wake up!" Dozens of beings passed by. Some looked at her for a second, then turned away. Others whispered, "Probably a scam," or "Let security deal with it." No one stopped. No one cared. Except one. A tall human man in his mid-30s, wearing a brown travel coat, paused. His name was Dr. Elias Vance, an exobiologist from Earth. He was not rich, not famous, and not powerful. He was just here to attend a science conference about alien ecosystems. But when he heard the little girl cry, something inside him couldn't ignore it. He walked over slowly and knelt beside the child. "Hey, it's okay," he said gently. "I'm a doctor. Let me check your mother." The girl looked up at him with wide, scared eyes. She didn't speak, but she didn't run either. That was enough. Elias touched the woman's neck and checked her pulse. It was weak, but steady. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was slow. Her skin had a faint blue glow, which was normal for Kalari, but her temperature was low. "She's alive," Elias said softly. "But something's wrong." A nearby alien, tall and armored, shouted, "Leave them alone, human! That's not your business!" Elias stood up and replied calmly, "She's just a child and her mother needs help." Another voice said, "They might be criminals. Could be a trick." Elias shook his head. "Then let security check later. Right now she needs medical care." He gently picked up the woman in his arms. She was light, almost weightless. Her body was soft and seemed to shift slightly like water under the skin. Kalari biology was always strange to humans. "Can you walk with me?" he asked the girl. She nodded and grabbed his coat tightly. They moved quickly through the port. A few aliens muttered behind them. Some even laughed, but Elias ignored them all. He found the nearest emergency station and placed the woman on the bench. The screen beeped. A robotic voice said, "Non-human species detected. Limited service. Please wait for security assistance." Elias frowned. "That's no good," he muttered. He looked down at the girl. She was silent now, holding her mother's hand. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "What's your name?" Elias asked. She sniffed and answered softly, "Laura." "Okay, Laura. I'm Elias. I'm going to help your mom, but we need to go to my ship. The med bay there is better." She looked unsure, but when her mother gave a tiny groan, she nodded. Elias carried the woman again. They made their way toward Dock 7, where his small research ship, the Orpheus, was docked. Along the way, 2 security drones floated down. "Human. Subject," one said in a cold voice. "You are carrying a non-authorized Kalari. Explain." "She's unconscious and needs medical help," Elias replied. "Medical services are limited to registered species. This case requires quarantine. Return the subject to holding area." "She's not a danger," Elias argued. "And this child, look at her. Do you want her to lose her mother because of a form?" The drones hovered, processing. Elias slowly pulled out his Earth diplomatic ID card. "I'm invoking Emergency Aid Protocol 4B, temporary guardianship under humanitarian grounds." The drones paused, then backed off. "Protocol accepted. Proceed. Your actions are recorded." Elias sighed with relief and continued. Inside the Orpheus, the med bay lit up as soon as he laid the Kalari woman on the examination bed. Laura stood beside her mother, not moving, eyes wide and silent. The medical scanner started its work. "Analyzing," the AI voice said. "Kalari female. Neural activity low. Toxin detected. Type: unknown. Elias leaned forward. Toxin? The screen showed a strange pattern in her nervous system. Something was attacking her brain, slowly shutting it down, but without killing her. Artificial compound, carefully made, the AI said. Elias's heart sank. This wasn't an accident. Laura looked up at him and asked in a small voice, "Will she be okay?" He knelt beside her and gently touched her shoulder. "I'll do everything I can." Suddenly, the ship lights flickered. Elias turned his head quickly. "Warning," the AI said. "External signal detected. Communication systems blocked. Possible interference." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Someone doesn't want this woman to survive," he whispered. He looked down at Laura, who hugged her mother tightly. Then he made a silent promise. "No matter what, I'll protect them." Outside the ship, in the shadows of the docking bay, a figure watched silently. It tapped a small communicator and spoke in a strange language. Inside the small research ship Orpheus, the medical scanner hummed quietly. The Kalari woman lay still, her breathing slow and weak. The lights of the scanner blinked over her blue skin, showing signs of damage deep inside her nervous system. Elias. Vance stood next to her, watching the screen carefully. The toxin inside her body was like nothing he had seen before. It wasn't natural. It had been made, created by someone who knew Kalari biology well. The computer AI spoke again. Toxin type, unknown. Treatment, unavailable in current database. Recommend specialist care. Elias frowned. "There's no time for that," he said. "She needs help now." Laura, the little alien girl, sat nearby holding her mother's hand. Her big green eyes looked up at Elias. "Is she dying?" she asked quietly. Elias took a deep breath. "No, but she's in danger. We have to help her soon." Suddenly, a loud alarm rang out inside the ship. The red warning light began to flash. "Attention," the AI said. "Security lockdown initiated. Docking Bay 7 under quarantine. All exits sealed." Elias quickly moved to the control panel and looked at the screen. A red line showed across the hangar doors. Outside his ship, security drones hovered, and a group of alien guards gathered near the entrance. "They're sealing us in," he muttered. Laura became scared. "Why? Why are they doing this?" "They think your mother is a threat," Elias said. "But I think someone wants to hide what happened to her." He checked the docking computer. A message had arrived from the Zareth 5 authorities. "You are holding an unregistered Kalari female during a restricted diplomatic cycle. Please surrender the body for inspection. Refusal will lead to forced entry." Elias shook his head. "Not a chance." He opened a secret compartment under the medical table. Inside were a few old tools, a small oxygen tank, and a tiny data drive. He plugged the drive into the console and began copying the medical files and toxin scans. "I need to get this data off the ship," he told himself. "If they take her, they'll destroy the evidence." He glanced at Laura. She was still holding her mother's hand, whispering softly in her own language. Elias knelt beside her. "Laura, do you know what your mom was doing before she got sick?" The girl looked at him, confused. "She had secret meetings. She said we'd go home soon." "Meetings with who?" "I don't know," she said. "But she was scared. She told me to remember where she hid something." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Laura slowly pointed at her mother's silver cloak. Elias carefully searched the lining and found a small metal badge, very thin, almost invisible. It had strange writing and a blinking light. He held it up. "This is a data key." He plugged it into the ship's console. The screen filled with encrypted text. Then a few images began to load. They showed underground tunnels, glowing blue, crystals and machines digging deep into a watery cave. Elias stared at the images. "This is illegal Kalari mining. On their homeworld. Someone stealing their resources. The screen showed another file. Diplomatic reports, secret meetings between off-world companies and Zareth officials. "This is serious," Elias said. "Your mom wasn't just a citizen. She was a diplomat. She came here to stop this." Laura looked confused. "What does that mean?" "It means she was very brave," Elias said. "And someone tried to silence her." Suddenly, the lights flickered again. The computer made a strange sound. "Alert! Communication systems jammed. External interference detected." Elias ran to the transmitter and tried sending a message. "To the Earth Embassy. The signal failed. They're blocking all outgoing messages," he said. "They don't want the truth to get out." He turned to Laura. "We can't stay here. They'll come inside soon." She grabbed his coat. "Please don't leave my mom." "I won't," he said. "We're going together." He quickly placed her mother into a small medical pod, normally used for field transport. It kept the body safe and provided oxygen. Then he told Laura to put on a light survival suit from the storage room. As they prepared to move, someone knocked on the outer hull. A voice came through the speaker. "This is Technician Oro. I heard you need help. Open the hatch." Elias looked at the camera screen. The alien looked normal, wearing a yellow suit and carrying a medical bag. "Did someone send you?" Elias asked through the speaker. "Yes," the voice answered. "I heard there's a sick Kalari. I know how to treat them." Elias hesitated. Something felt wrong. He zoomed in the camera and noticed the man's gloves. They were thick, too thick, for medical work. Also, the bag was sealed shut. Elias shook his head. He reached for a small shock baton he kept for emergencies and whispered to Laura, "Stay behind me." He pressed the door release. The hatch opened slowly. Oro stepped inside with a smile. "I came to help," he said. Elias nodded, then asked, "Why are you wearing security boots?" The man's eyes widened. Elias raised the baton. The man reached for something in his bag, but before he could act, Elias slammed the baton into his side. Sparks flew, and Oro collapsed. Laura gasped. Elias closed the hatch again. "He wasn't a medic," he said. "He came to take your mom." He searched the man's bag and found a stun dart gun, a tracking beacon, and a message. "Secure the Kalari diplomat's body. Erase all data. Do not leave witnesses." Elias stared at the words, then looked at Laura. "They're not going to stop," he said. "But neither will I." He turned back to the console. "We need to find someone who can broadcast this to the entire galaxy." Laura held his hand tightly. Outside the ship, more guards were gathering, but inside Elias was already planning their next move. The small ship Orpheus floated silently in Dock 7. Outside, more security forces had arrived, but none dared to force their way in yet. Inside the ship, Dr. Elias Vance worked quickly. The fake technician who tried to enter the ship was now tied, in a storage room. He was unconscious, but Elias didn't have time to deal with him. There was something more important. The secret files the Kalari mother had hidden. Elias sat at the control desk, eyes fixed on the encrypted data key Laura had helped him find. The files were slowly unlocking. The ship's AI was doing its best to decode the alien language. Beside him, little Laura sat quietly, watching her mother sleep inside the medical pod. The pod lights blinked softly, keeping the Kalari woman alive. "Elias," the girl whispered, "when will my mom wake up?" Elias looked at her with gentle eyes. "She's fighting a very bad sickness, but she's strong, like you." Laura nodded, but her face was still sad. "She told me not to trust anyone, only someone kind." Elias smiled faintly. "She's smart." Suddenly the computer beeped. Decryption complete, displaying recovered files. Elias leaned forward. The screen showed recordings. Some were images of alien tunnels full of glowing blue crystals. Others were audio clips of meetings. In one video, Lura's mother was speaking calmly in a meeting room. The mining is destroying our planet's underwater systems. Our people are getting sick. You must stop. Then the screen showed the response. A Zareth official replied coldly, "The crystals are too valuable. Your government is weak. And if you speak about this again, we will silence you." Elias clenched his fists. So that's it. She tried to stop them, and they poisoned her. He copied all the files into his personal drive. AI, prepare the external transmitter. Unable to comply. Communication. Signals are still jammed. Elias sighed. We need another way. He turned to Lura. We have to get off this station. We need to reach someone who can spread this truth across the galaxy. Lura looked scared. How? They're watching everything. Before Elias could answer, the screen changed. A message flashed. Incoming ship detected. Unregistered. Unknown origin. Elias stared at the radar. A small ship was heading toward Dock 7. It wasn't listed in the spaceport's records. Then a direct message arrived. Dr. Elias Vance, this is Kale of the Kalari Resistance. We received part of your message. Lower your defenses. We are here to help. Elias blinked. Resistance? Lura's eyes lit up. My mom told me stories about them. They protect our people in secret. Elias hesitated. It could be a trap. But time was running out. He opened a small channel. If you're really resistance, prove it, the voice replied. Code 9 Alpha. Water remembers truth. Fire only forgets. Elias nodded. It matched a Kalari phrase he had read during his research. He moved quickly to open the docking hatch. A few minutes later, the Kalari ship docked silently, and 3 figures stepped in. 2 tall Kalari, in dark cloaks, and 1 short alien who looked like a glowing mushroom. The lead Kalari, Kyle, nodded to Elias. You're braver than most humans. I didn't come here to be brave, Elias replied. I just couldn't walk away. Kyle looked at the medical pod. His eyes softened. Ambassador Sayela, we feared she was lost. Lura stood up. She's my mom. Kyle knelt down. Then you must be Lura. Your mother spoke of you. Lura smiled for the first time in days. Elias handed the data drive to Kyle. Everything is in here. Mining crimes, corruption, the poisoning. Kyle took it carefully. This is more than we hoped for. With this, the galaxy will know the truth. But we can't send it out from here, Elias said. The signals are jammed. Kyle nodded. We have a hidden beacon ship near the asteroid field. If we reach it, we can broadcast everything. Elias looked toward the cameras. Then let's go before they break in. Kyle signaled to his team. Take the ambassador. She needs protection. We'll cover your escape. The other 2 resistance members lifted the medical pod and began moving it toward their ship. Suddenly, the warning lights flashed red again. Alert! Unauthorized activity in Dock 7. Reinforcements arriving in 90 seconds. Elias ran to the control panel. He started disabling the security cameras and locking the inner gates. Lura grabbed his hand. Are you coming with us? Elias looked at her. I have to buy you time, but I'll catch up. Kyle looked back. You saved her life, and maybe our whole world. Elias nodded. Just promise me you'll keep them safe. Kyle replied, with my life. As the Kalari ship undocked with Lura and her mother inside, Elias turned back toward the hallway. The countdown had begun. Dr. Elias Vance stood alone in the empty hallway outside his ship. His heart beat fast, but his mind stayed clear. He had done what he came to do. Lura and her mother were safe, and the truth was in the hands of the Kalari resistance. Now, he had to survive long enough to escape. He returned to the control panel and opened the station's emergency power system. Using his research access, he triggered a minor electrical fault in Dock 8 next door. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered. A voice from the station intercom shouted, All units, investigate Dock 8, possible breach. It worked. For now, they would check the wrong place. Elias ran into a side passage, pulling a small tool from his belt. He opened a maintenance hatch and climbed inside. The narrow tunnel was dark and dusty, but he crawled quickly. He had studied the station map earlier. He knew where to go. His goal was the old observation deck, a place no one used anymore. From there, he could access the central computer cables and try to restore communications. As he moved through the tunnel, Elias thought about Lura. She was just a child, but she had stayed brave, even when everyone else turned away. Her eyes, full of trust, reminded him why he was doing this. At last, he reached the deck. The door was locked, but his ID still worked. He stepped inside. The room was quiet and dark. The large glass window showed the stars outside. Elias sat at the terminal and connected his data drive. The files from Ambassador Saela were still there. Images of illegal mining, audio of threats, and proof of poison. He began writing a message for the Galactic Humanitarian Council. To all who believe in peace and justice, this is Dr. Elias Vance, human exobiologist, currently trapped on Zareth 5. I'm sending evidence of a terrible crime committed against the Kalari people. But before he could finish, the screen went black. Connection blocked, the AI voice said. Elias slammed his fist on the table. They shut down this terminal too. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside. He ducked behind a wall and held his breath. The door slid open. 2 guards stepped in. One said, "He's not here. Check the engineering level next." The other nodded. "If we find the human, end it quickly. Orders from above." They turned and left. Elias waited a few seconds, then stood up again. He whispered to himself, "They're afraid. That means I'm close." He took a small transmitter from his bag. It was a backup, a weak signal, but it might reach a nearby ship. He adjusted the frequency and spoke softly. "This is Elias Vance, transmitting from Zareth 5. If anyone hears this, the Kalari ambassador is alive. The proof of the mining crime is real. Please respond." He repeated the message 3 times, then turned off the transmitter to save power. Now he had to move again. Meanwhile, far from the station, the Kalari resistance ship flew fast through an asteroid field. Inside, Lura sat beside her mother, who still lay quietly in the medical pod. Kale, the Kalari leader, placed a soft hand on her shoulder. "Your mother is strong. She will wake soon." Lura looked up. "Will we go back home?" Kale smiled gently. "Yes, but first we must tell the galaxy the truth." He looked at the message Elias had given him. The files were already loading onto their secure system. Then, a voice from the ship's pilot rang out. "We're picking up a weak transmission. It's from Elias." Kale moved to the console and listened. After hearing the message, he nodded. "He's still on the station." Lura stood. "We have to help him." Kale hesitated. "We must protect you and your mother first." But Lura stared at him bravely. "He helped us. We can't leave him behind." Kyle looked into her eyes. In that moment, he saw the same strength her mother once showed. He turned to the pilot. "Send a reply. Tell him we're coming." Back on Zareth 5, Elias made his way toward the lower engineering deck. He moved quietly, hiding behind cargo containers and old pipes. His path was blocked by a group of soldiers. They were guarding a large door. Elias recognized it. It was the power control room. If he could cut power to the command center, he might delay their plan long enough for help to arrive. But there were too many guards. He thought for a moment, then reached into his coat. He pulled out 3 small research drones he had built himself. They were meant for exploring alien caves, but they could carry sound and light. He programmed them to fly past the guards, making loud noises and blinking wildly. When he activated them, the drones shot forward, buzzing like angry insects. The guards shouted, "What is that?" As they chased the drones, Elias slipped through a back door and entered the power room. He worked quickly, pulling out wires and rerouting the circuits. Lights blinked. Screens went dark. Then, the station's main alarm rang out. "Warning! Core power overload. Evacuate critical zones." Elias smiled. "That'll slow them down." But just as he turned to leave, a sharp voice said, "Don't move." A tall figure stood at the door, holding a weapon. It was one of the officials who had threatened Ambassador Ciela in the secret meeting. "You should have stayed out of this, human," he said coldly. Elias raised his hands. "Hurting a child and her mother isn't justice." The official stepped closer. "You're only one man. Do you really think anyone will care?" Before he could shoot, the station shook. Outside, a bright light filled the docking bay. The Kalari, resistance ship, had returned. The official turned in shock. Elias acted fast. He grabbed a metal pipe and swung it at the weapon, knocking it aside. The two men struggled, but Elias used all his strength. Finally, the official fell unconscious. Elias ran toward the bay. As he reached it, the resistance ship opened its doors. Lura stood there, waving. "Come on," he smiled, heart pounding, and ran aboard just as the ship lifted off. Behind him, Zareth 5 faded into the stars. The resistance ship flew fast, dodging patrol drones and slipping through blind spots in the station's security system. Elias Vance sat inside, breathing heavily. His coat was torn, and a bruise was forming on his jaw, but he was alive. And Laura had found him. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "I knew you'd come," he whispered, putting a hand gently on her back. Kyle closed the hatch. "They'll notice we're back soon. We can't leave yet. The ambassador's condition is unstable." Ambassador Ciela, still inside the medical pod, had begun to stir. Her breathing was deeper and her skin's glow had returned slightly. But she was not fully awake. Kale looked serious. "We must stabilize her here. We cannot risk jump travel in her state." Elias nodded. "Then we hold them off." The resistance crew got to work. They moved the ship to Dock 12, an old cargo bay rarely used. The area was large, with crates, broken machinery, and plenty of places to set up a defense. Elias stood beside Kale as they planned. "They'll come with soldiers," Elias said. "They don't care who sees now. They'll try to erase us and—" "The evidence," Kale agreed. "We'll give them a surprise." Using supplies from the ship, the team placed shields around the pod and set up defense turrets near the dock's entrance. Elias reprogrammed his research drones again, this time to create false signals and confuse enemy sensors. Laura sat beside her mother and held her hand tightly. "She moved," she said softly. "Just a little." "She's fighting," Elias said. "Just like you." The hours passed slowly. Then the warning lights flashed. Dock 12 lockdown triggered. Incoming force detected. Kyle raised his voice. "Positions!" Through the camera screen, they saw what was coming. At least a dozen soldiers in dark armor. Some carried rifles. Behind them stood the same official who had tried to stop Elias in the power room. "He survived," Elias said. The official stepped forward and used a loudspeaker. "Give us the ambassador and the human. Surrender, and you may live." Elias replied, "You're too late. The truth is already spreading." The official laughed. "Not far enough. If you're captured now, no one will hear you again." Elias turned to Kyle. "We hold them. Just long enough." Kyle nodded. Together. The battle began. The door to Dock 12 blew open. Smoke and sparks filled the air. The first wave of soldiers rushed in, but the resistance turrets fired back. Quickly. 2 guards fell before they reached cover. Elias threw a flash device, blinding the attackers for a few seconds. Kyle and another Kalari fired low-powered pulse rifles designed to stun. Laura ducked behind a crate, covering her ears. Elias spotted her and shouted, "Stay down! We're okay!" The guards advanced again, this time from the sides. 1 drone flew close, scanning the area. Elias picked up a metal pipe and smashed it down onto the drone, breaking it in half. Suddenly, a voice came from the med pod. Weak, but clear. "Laura!" Laura looked up. Her mother's eyes were open. "Mom!" she cried, crawling to her side. Ambassador Sayela blinked, confused. "Where am I?" "You're safe," Laura whispered. "Elias saved us." Sayela's eyes focused. She saw Elias and Kale firing at the entrance. "Protect the evidence," she said weakly. "Don't let them take it." "We won't," Laura whispered. Kale fired again, then looked back. "We're losing ground. We need to escape now." Elias ran to the console. "The files are ready. I can upload them to multiple ships nearby using the station's cargo network." He began tapping quickly. "Done. Sending now." The signal traveled through hidden relays, quietly reaching dozens of freighter ships and small transport vessels docked at Zareth 5. From there, it would spread to the galaxy, but outside, the soldiers were getting closer. One threw a shock bomb, knocking down a shield. Another fired and hit one of the resistance members, who collapsed with a cry. Elias shouted, "We need more time!" Laura stood up. "I can help!" "No," Elias said. "Stay back." But Laura didn't listen. She closed her eyes and reached toward the soldiers. Her hands glowed faintly with a soft blue light. The soldiers froze. Kale stared in shock. "She's using empathy force." The Kalari were known for psychic abilities, but only a few had the gift to reach other minds. Laura focused harder. "You don't want to fight. Go away." The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some looked confused. Others turned and ran. The official at the back shouted, "What are you doing? Stop her!" But no one listened. Laura's power had reached their hearts. Elias grabbed her shoulder gently. "That was amazing," she smiled faintly. "I just wanted them to stop." Kyle gave the signal. "Now, back to the ship." The resistance carried Ambassador Sayela and helped their wounded ally. Elias led Laura aboard. As the ship lifted off, the last of the guards tried to shoot, but their shots missed. The docking bay faded behind them. Inside the ship, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Ambassador Sayela looked at Elias. "You risked your life for us." Elias smiled. "I couldn't leave a child crying for her mother." She nodded slowly. "You are more Kalari than many of us." Kyle turned to the crew. "Set course for the resistance base. The files will reach the galaxy soon. We've won a great battle today." Elias sat down beside Laura. "You did something brave. You helped everyone." Laura leaned against him. "You didn't leave me. I'll never forget that." Outside the window, stars moved past as the ship entered hyperspace. The resistance ship moved silently through hyperspace, leaving Zareth 5 behind. The stars outside the window streaked like silver rain. Inside, the crew rested quietly. The battle had ended, but the mission was not over. Elias sat near Laura, who was fast asleep on a soft seat beside him. Her hand still gripped his coat, like she was afraid he would disappear. Ambassador Sayela was recovering fast. Her skin glowed again, her breathing was strong, and her eyes were sharp with purpose. Kale entered the room. "We just received a signal. The files you sent, Elias, they've gone viral. Dozens of ships have shared them across 4 sectors." Elias let out a breath. "Then it worked." Kyle nodded. "Yes, people are waking up. The truth is spreading." The files contained proof that high-ranking officials in the Zareth Council had poisoned Ambassador Sayela to stop peace talks between the Kalari and humans. They feared unity. They wanted control, not cooperation. But now the truth was out. Ambassador Sayela sat up, her voice stronger. The leaders who betrayed both our people will not stay in power for long. The people will rise. Elias looked at her with quiet respect. Your daughter was brave. She saved us all. Saela turned to look at Laura sleeping peacefully. She has a strong heart, like you. Elias shook his head. I'm just a mechanic who couldn't walk past someone in need, she smiled. And that makes you a hero. The resistance ship arrived at Kion Base, a hidden outpost floating in a quiet star system. It was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, protected by energy fields and hidden from enemy eyes. As the ship docked, the crew was met by a group of humans, Kalari, and other species who supported peace. Cheers rose as Ambassador Saela stepped. Out! Alive and walking! Ambassador Saela lives! Someone shouted. Kyle raised a hand. And the one who saved her, Elias Vance of Earth! The crowd clapped and cheered. Elias felt shy. He had never been called a hero before. He looked at Laura, who stood beside him, eyes wide and full of joy. They spent the next 2 days at the base. Ambassador Saela recorded a message for the galaxy, sharing her experience and thanking those who helped. The message was sent on every channel. Meanwhile, Elias helped repair ships, fix broken systems, and teach young recruits how to maintain energy cores. He liked staying busy, but inside, he knew his life had changed forever. One evening, as the stars blinked outside the observation deck, Elias stood quietly with a cup of warm tea. Laura ran up beside him. Can I stay with you a little longer? She asked. He smiled. Of course. She leaned against the railing. What will happen now? Elias thought for a moment. There will be protests, maybe even more fighting. But change has started. Your mother will help lead it. Laura looked up at him. And what will you do? Elias looked out at the stars. I don't know. Maybe build ships, maybe travel, maybe help where I'm needed. Laura smiled. You'll help more people, like you helped me. He nodded. If I can, I will. Just then, Kyle walked over. We received a message from Earth, he said. Elias raised an eyebrow. From who? Kyle handed him a data pad. It's from the Human Council. They want to thank you personally, and they're offering you a position. Elias blinked. A position? Kyle nodded. They want you to serve as a peace ambassador, a bridge between humans and Kalari. Elias laughed softly. Me? I'm not a politician. Saela stepped into the room. No, you're not. You're better than that. You care. He looked at her, then at Laura. And Laura? He asked. Saela answered. She will stay with me, but she will always have you. You are part of her story now. Laura nodded. You're my family, too. Elias felt something stir in his chest. A warmth. A connection. A sense of purpose. He looked at the data pad, then at the stars again. All right, he said. I'll accept. 3 months later, on a green world near the edge of the Andaran sector, a crowd gathered for the first joint Human-Kalari Peace Summit. Flags of both worlds flew high. Drones hovered above, broadcasting the event to billions. Elias walked on too, the stage beside Ambassador Saela, both dressed in peaceful gray-blue robes. Kale stood nearby as head of security. Laura sat in the front row, smiling brightly. Elias spoke clearly into the mic. Not long ago, I was just a man fixing broken machines on a cold space station. I didn't think I could change anything, but sometimes, doing one good thing, just stopping to help someone, can change everything. The crowd listened silently. We live in a galaxy full of noise and fear. But peace doesn't begin with grand speeches or powerful weapons. It begins with compassion, with action, with the choice to care. He turned toward Laura for a moment. I stopped because a little girl cried for her mother. I stayed because it was the right thing to do. Ambassador Saela added, And today, that act of kindness has helped shape the future of our worlds. The crowd rose in a wave of applause. Later, that night under a sky full of stars, Elias sat on a bench outside the hall. Laura joined him. "Did you ever think we'd come this far?" she asked. He smiled. "Never. But I'm glad we did." Laura reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A tiny gear charm from the tool he had used when he first met her. "I kept this," she said. "It reminds me of you." He took it gently. "I'll keep it too." Together they looked up at the sky. A new future had begun, not because of power, but because one human made a simple choice. He stopped to help, and in doing so, he helped change the galaxy.